have a look to see whether or not that shaft is spinning. Right, there she is. She's actually running. So come to a stop. And just put the tri-block back there. Now, it could be that you want to disconnect this motor because it's got noisy bearings. As it turns out, it doesn't. But this is the procedure that you'll follow. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do before I do anything else, I'm actually standing on the mat. Let's have a look. Gloves. Gloves on. They, I don't give you this at New South Wales, do they?
No.
Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is put the old gloves on. We want to make sure that if we do touch this motor, that it's not live. Just leave that run. But before we do anything, we must make sure that the test is working. So I put the active in here. Just turn that off for a moment. My active in here. There like that. Turn the switch on. And we have on AC volts 246.6 volts. Okay, so I know my meter's working. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my earth cable, which I've got here, and put that into the common of the meter. And in my case, I have a very convenient earth here, like this. Chop it in there. I've got it on AC volts still. Just going to make sure that there's no touch voltage anywhere, and that comes out of 0.02. For all intent and purpose, there's nothing there. Now I'm going to go to ohms. I'm going to go to the ohms. At the moment it says outside the limit. There's no continuity. What I expect is that the switchboard surround, because that'll be metal, will actually have continuity, no resistance, virtually no resistance to the earth. So you can see the main earth there. And if I touch that, I've got 0.2 of an ohm on the saddle, 0.1 to 0.2 of an ohm. The maximum I'm allowed is half an ohm. But if you've got half an ohm, that's a problem. Okay, so that makes perfect sense. We have 0.1 ohms. Now that I have established continuity, I can go back to the volts, right? Go back to AC volts. Now this could be a pump, fuel pump, or it could be a motor that's a long way away. What I want to make sure is that I don't have any voltage on the frame of my motor. What I do there is I simply touch the bolt or some part of the frame that I know is conductive to make sure that there's no touch voltage. And I've got my reference here to the earth. So if this has an elevated voltage because the insulation has failed somewhat, may not be a dead short, it may be a partial short. Okay, so we're just making sure that before we touch the motor, it's not got a touch voltage. Pause that. Now that we have done that, this box here is a simulation of that. So instead of having to take this off and apprentices always going in there, I've now got my terminal box simulated over on this side. Like that. that. And what I have is a red, if you want to bring that across, the red wire there on the A phase, white wire on the B phase, the blue, which should be a dark blue on the C phase, and we're using one of the 3-phase colour codes, the brown, the black and the blue, light blue. But the problem is that this is white in star configuration. We've got an earth, there is no neutral. Now many of the rigs around here are 24 volt, extra low voltage for the apprentices to work on. In the refrigeration trades we use, for whatever reason, 240, 415 volts. Okay? So we must understand that this is actually operating at real world voltages. If I turn on my, I'm just going to change back over to my black cable. I've got my meter set to volts. I now have a motor which is running. So power supply is connected. I'm just going to test to earth my voltages. I go to the earth lug with the black lead. I go to the red phase here. I'm not getting a very good connection. Let's just double check that meter. I'm going to turn it off and then back on again. To help if I had my probe on the right one. So I saw a metal thing there, that's terrible. It's not actually making continuity. So go to the earth here. I can get a nice, no, that's not a good connection. There it is there, there's my connection. And I go between there. I have 244 volts on the A phase, or the red phase. I have 245 volts, 245, yeah, on the white phase, or L2. And I have 243 volts on the blue phase, or L3. Okay, between the phases, from red to white, I have 424. From red to blue, I have 422. And from white to blue, I have 423. Pretty well balanced. Now what I got to know is what circuit breaker isolates this. Now in this instance I do have an isolation switch, but I'm going to ignore that's there for the moment, and I might find that this board is somewhere else. So what I'm going to do is I could have an assistant on site, be an apprentice or a trade assistant, and he's going to go over the board, have a look at the board, and legally the board should be labelled. But we can't always trust the board, because people can come along, take one of those out, shove things along, put another breaker there, and it's no longer labelled what it is. So we have to do a visual on this, and we have to confirm it, and we need to confirm it more than once, because there's plenty of times when you turn something off, you go off as well, and it's just a coincidence. So we want to do this a number of times to make sure that it's right. Now, there is only one 3-phase breaker on this board, so I imagine that this will be the one that turns the power off. So what I'm going to do is pop that up there like that. I'm going to put this onto the voltage, I'm now going to go between the A and the B phase, the red and the white phase. I have my 424 volts, and considering that there's only one 3-phase breaker here, I'm going to turn that one on. And indeed, the motor stops turning, and I've got no power there. Okay, so no power on that phase, from A to C, and no power from B to C, and to earth, which I should expect 240. I have none of those. I'm going to put this back on. I'll turn it back on. I need to press the stop start switch to get that back up and running. I'll put that back on, and I'm going to see what happens with now 244 volts between A and earth. I'm going to turn that off, and my isolator appears to be working. Okay. Now, there is a lockable, there's actually provision on the three-phase switch to allow for us to put a padlock on that danger tag. Be warned that I have seen motors connected to VSDs with switches that look like that. You think it's a big three-phaser, but in fact it's a data cable which goes off to a VSD, and all it does is turn off a gate. It won't isolate necessarily the 415 volts or the 240 volts should someone come in the plant room and override the gate that this turns off. So just be careful of that. To be very, very safe, what you need is to be able to isolate the circuit from the point of origin. The point of origin is the switchboard. There she goes. That's now being turned off. What we want to do is, we've tested before we touch, we're now going to lock out and tag out. It's even on, they've even put that on there, lock out and tag out. So we're going to do that, but to lock it out, I need my little lock dog. The old little lock dog, eh? And we pop him on like that. A bit harder with the gloves on. I'm going to stay with the gloves just to show you it's not impossible to do with the gloves on. Turn the old screw until she doesn't want to go anymore. Don't overdo it. We can now, that can't come on anymore. I'm going to throw on my danger tag as such, like that. I'm going to thread that through that way like that. Push him in like that and take the key. Now, this is protected from inadvertent or accidental re-energisation of the power. The old girl is completely isolated, and we can double check that by making sure the meter is on volts AC. I have no voltage there. I can press here like this, that's not going to come on. I've got to make sure that the isolator there, let's just turn the isolator on for fun, just to see whether or not I can get it to turn on. No voltage has come up, and now on nothing there, she's all sweet. Very good. Okay, so at this point in time, I've taken my gloves off, and I can now record how this is connected. Now, we showed you before, and what I can do is I can do a drawing. Okay, so I can do the drawing and clearly label it, which I recommend. The other thing you can do in our modern wonders of technology is now take a picture. So we could actually take a picture of the three phases so that we can see the orientation. Always good though to have a drawing, just in case for some reason you drop your phone, you smash the screen, you can't see it later. Obviously, the more conductors you've got with the different colours, the harder it's going to be. If, however, the conductors are majority one colour, then you're going to have to label. You'll have to label the cables and the terminations that they went into and write that in the book. Okay, so that helps speed up the process when you've got to go and reconnect it. Now, you can work it out, sure, if you don't go to the trouble of identifying the cables and marking those for reinstallation later on, but it's so much easier if you do that beforehand, and it'll save you a lot of time and keep the boss happy. Alright, so on the danger tag, we can place my number, your number, your phone number, the date that it was installed, the reason why it was out of service. Also, now I can disconnect this motor and I can mechanically do as I want. What we are going to do though is if we are going to take it off, we need to make sure that no one gets, how would you say, scared, I guess, by the process that you've got wires there that look like they can cause a problem. So in the process, I'll do that like this. We've already taken a photo of this. I can pull these out. This is on the load side of the block. I can take out the earthing system there, undo the gland. It comes out like that. And that allows me now to isolate, that's completely isolated, and I can now remove the motor. Remember that this box here is emulating that. Okay, so you'll end up with the tails on this side, and then you need to make sure that these are capped off so that there's no bare copper showing. So we're going to do that in a second. I'll cap them off so that there's no bare copper showing, and that would be if you're taking it off that side for this to be extracted, because you wouldn't normally take that, but this, as I say, is a simulated box. All right. Okay, so as I promised, what we're going to do now is put the screw connectors onto the bare terminals and do that up like this. There's one, and then we do the next one. Phase on the motor side, this is on the motor side of the terminal block. So that gets done there like this. And do this one here. Now, the earth wire, if it is bare, which it shouldn't be, because it needs a capturing device to stop the strands of the cable from coming out from underneath where you're gripping the cable down. But in this case, we already have a lug, so I don't need to do that. Now what we're also encouraged to do is if there is a possibility that somehow someone is going to reef all of that off, right, and if it was coming out of here, you would put a plastic bag on here and you would tape it up. If they want to keep going, well, they're only going to kill themselves. Yes, it happens. Another trick actually, if that was coming out of the box, is to strip all the conductors and twist them together. So that if they do try to energise the circuit, bang, it's going to go off straight away because it will create a short. Now, we've also got this, so if we've got an isolator, then we can lock that off. We don't need to worry too much about the side. We can put a danger tag on to stop people from, again, interfering with the circuit. So there we go. Try that one.